Welcome back, listeners, to Sandman Stories Presents, a folklore podcast where I read you to sleep or until the next story. I'm your host, Dustin. Today we are back with Mary Hayes Davis and Chao Liang. In the first story, we hear about two important mountains sizing each other up with the story of Confucius. And in the second story, we learn about a young boy who isn't a good student, but finally becomes wise. Okay, let's begin. The Two Mountains. The Kunlun Mountain is very high, 10,000 feet or more. Most of the time his head is covered with the clouds. And since he was born, no man has ever found a way to climb where he might look in the face of the great Kunlun. And the eagles and the shanchi birds live always with him. One day Kunlun spoke to the Steichmann mountain who lived near and said, "I am the highest mountain in the world. I am the steepest and the most honorable of all the mountains here. The farmers come to me. From the morning until the evening sun, they come and cut the great rocks from my base. And from the earliest light until the darkness gathers about my head, the birds sing for me. I have the shanchi birds. They wear the most beautiful feather in the world. It shines in the sun and has a different glory for the moon. Man gives more gold for this than for any other feather that is on earth. The shanchi is mine. I feed him, and he lives always with me. Yesterday, a teacher and his scholars came here, and I heard them tell this story about Confucius. One day, Confucius was talking to the young king, Lao Bai, and he asked the king, 'Have you ever been to the Kunlun Mountain?' And the king answered, 'No.' Then Confucius showed him a beautiful fan made of the feathers from the shanchi birds. 'Did you ever see feathers like these?' he asked. 'I am a king, and I have seen many things,' said the young king, 'but never have I beheld the colors of such a wondrous beauty. I will give you 1,000 pieces of silver if you will bring me a fan like this one.' And Confucius answered, 'If I can persuade you to do one thing that I desire greatly, I will give you the fan, for I should not like to sell it. I could not take silver in exchange for it, as it was given to my honored ancestor, my great-great-grandfather. But, as I have said, if you will take my advice concerning a certain matter, you shall have the fan.' 'I will be advised by you,' said the young king. 'What do you wish me to do?' 'You are a king of great strength,' said Confucius. 'You have more soldiers than any other king. But if you were a lion, you would not kill all the other animals in the wilderness to show your great strength. Or if you were the greatest fish in the waters, you would not swallow all the weaker fish.' The young king answered, 'No, I would not. If I were a lion, I would let all the weaker creatures dance before me in happiness and safety.' 'You are a strong, great king,' said Confucius. 'Other kingdoms are weaker than your own. Their kings do not wish to fight unless they must. If you take my advice and will not force them to war for 6 years, you shall have many gifts from these kingdoms. You shall have this wonderful fan made from the feathers of 120 shanchi birds, and gold and ivory with beautiful carvings. And you shall have gems of many colors, and battle horses and bear's feet. If you will be advised by me, the other nations will give you these things.' 'How soon shall I have these things?' the young king asked. 'In 1 year you shall have them,' Confucius replied. 'I must have time to go again to the rulers of these kingdoms.' So the king agreed to do as Confucius desired, and Confucius said, 'I now give you my fan, and if in 1 year it is as I say, the fan is yours. But if you begin warring with any other nation in that time, you must return the gift to me.' Then Confucius went to see the rulers of the weaker kingdoms, and 4 gave promises of peace and sent gifts to the young king. But one of the kings would not give a tribute, neither would he say when he would begin war. When a year had almost passed, the young king reported to Confucius, 'Only 4 kings have sent me gifts. Does the other nation wish for war, or will its king send me a gift as the others have done? Will you not take my fan as a gift from me, and let the small weak nation go?' said Confucius. Then the king became very angry. He tore his long robe and said, I will swallow up the nation that is my enemy. We will have war now." "The year of your promise is not yet gone," said Confucius. "If you do that, you must return the priceless fan." And the young king gave Confucius his fan and went away. The king gave his general the order to prepare for war. But in a few hours he repented of what he had done, for he prized the fan of Confucius above all gold and jewels, and he ordered his general to cease preparing for battle. And he further ordered that a shizung, good talker, be sent with his message to Confucius. "I, the king, am sick at heart. I wish you to come to me and bring with you the fan which I prize above all gems. I will not battle with the weaker kingdom." "I have important work and cannot come today," answered Confucius. "But in one more day I will see the king." Then the king was very happy again, for his heart was set on possessing the fan. When the next day came, the king sent his most honorable chair, carried by 8 men, and went himself to meet Confucius, who held in his hand the priceless fan, for he knew well the heart of the young king. And when he drew near, the king could not see Confucius. He saw only the sparkling colors of the fan he so desired. And Confucius said, "I thought you were going to destroy the weaker nation. Why do you wish me to come here?" Then the king bowed to Confucius and said, "I am in the wrong. I have thought deeply about this, and I will take your advice and keep peace. Now, will you give me the fan?" "No, you are not to have the fan on the agreement which you broke, for when you sent me away you prepared to make war on the weaker nation," said Confucius. And the young king fell with his face to the ground, and his attendants came to care for him. "If you will make a new arrangement," said Confucius, "and promise that you will never be the first to go to war, I will give you this fan that you so desire." The young king made the agreement, and the fan was given to him by Confucius. And the king said to himself, "This fan is more than many kingdoms to me. In all the world of man, there is nothing else so beautiful. My heart has desired above all things this wonderful fan of the shanqi feathers and the rare carving." When the Kunlun Mountain had told this story to the Steichmann Mountain, he said, "Although I have the shanqi birds, the most beautiful of all creation, yet it is a strange thing to me that 1,000 people bow their heads and worship you, while I stand here and am hardly noticed. You give no great thing to the people. You have no beauty. You are not tall and grand. Your head is not higher than the clouds. You cannot see the dark and secret caves of the thunder and the hidden places of the beginning of the storm. You never gave feathers more beautiful than flowers to a king. Why do people come and worship you instead of me? The hunter comes to me, and the farmer takes my stones, but they forget me, the giver. Now tell me truly, why do people love and worship you instead of me?" And the Steichmann Mountain answered, "I will tell you why. You are very haughty. You are stiff and stony and proud. From your base to your summit, your nature is not kind. The children cannot play in your lap. In the summertime, when the people come for the fruit and grain harvest, you give them nothing, and they cannot come to you to choose the shanda. It hurts their feet to walk among your rocks and stones. No one can visit you. You do not welcome them. How can they worship you? I am lower and of a gentler nature. The birds come to me to make their nests, and people always gather about me in the summertime. My heart is open, and everyone knows me well and loves me." Meaning, the proud and the gentle live in the world together, but the gentle and loving have happiness that the proud cannot understand. The end. Okay, and story number 2, A Chinese Prodigal Son. Gonghwa's father and mother were farmers. They had a pleasant home and would have been very happy together, but after Gonghwa was 4 years old, he he was a bad, disobedient boy. He would not listen to his mother's teachings. She was a good woman and tried by different ways to make him do right. In school, he was considered a very bright boy and he learned fast, but he would not obey his teacher. Gonghwa was only 7 years old when he came home one day with his books. He had run away from school. As he came into the room where his mother was working, he cried out, "Mutsing, why do you do that?" She was cutting into little bits a fine large piece of cloth that she had woven to make the family clothes of. "Why do you spoil the cloth, mother?" "Yes, my son, it is true I spoil the cloth. It is now good for nothing. It will not make clothes for your father, clothes for yourself, nor clothes for me. It is wasted and will not be of any use, even for dust cloths. It is not good for anything. Do you know why I did that, my boy?" "No, Mutsing. Why did you do it?" "For this reason, my son. I am anxious that you shall be good and study at your lessons in school every day. And I hope that after a while you will be a good and wise man and do something for your father, your mother, and your nation. And I also hope to make your clothes out of this cloth. But your teacher says you run away, go to the seesaw, play in the water, climb trees, throw stones at the little birds all day, and will not study. You are using your time as I have used this nice new cloth, cutting it up into useless little pieces. I once thought that you were a wise child, but you are not. You are very foolish." Gonghwa cried and felt sad while his mother talked, and then he said, "I will go back to school tomorrow. Now, can you mend the cloth or make another piece, Mutsing?" "I will wait and see if you really mean to be a good boy," said his mother. The next morning he arose early, took his books, and went directly to school. But in a few days he was as bad as before. The school children and the neighbors complained about the boy who did so much mischief. His mother had only one little son, and as they came to her with complaints, she felt that she would almost die of grief. She lay awake all night thinking, "What can I do to teach my boy the good? Who can give the boy lessons if not his own mother? Oh, I must think of some way." Next morning Gonghwa was up at the usual time and went into the kitchen for food. But the kitchen was dark, there was no fire and no food. He said to himself, "It is strange, so late and no breakfast." He went to his mother's room and called, "Mutsing," but there was no answer. He then went close to her bed and touched her, but she did not move. He then ran to his aunt and told her to go and see that his mother was surely dead. She answered, "It may be that the gods have taken her away because you have been such a bad boy. Now will you be a better boy?" And he promised. Then she ran to her sister's room to see if she was dead. Gonghwa stayed outside trembling with fear while his aunt went in. She soon saw that her sister was not dead and told of the promise to Gonghwa. "Did my boy think I was dead?" asked his mother. "Well, keep him at your house for 2 or 3 days and send him to school. Let him think and think, and he may be a better boy." Gonghwa's aunt told him that if he had learned his lessons and obeyed his teacher, it might be that after all the gods would allow his mother to stay with him. While his aunt prepared breakfast for him, he asked many questions. "What did you do with my mother? Will there be a funeral?" "Never mind," said the aunt. "Go to school and do not be so bad anymore, and we shall see what happens. It may be that your mother will live again." Part 2. For 2 days Gonghwa was good. No schoolmate complained, nor neighbor complained. He studied his lessons and obeyed his teacher. Then he went again to his mother's house. He saw that she was alive, and in a few days he was again as bad as ever. "I cannot teach him. He must learn things for himself," said his mother. "I do not know what else I can do." And so it was until he was 12 years old. His mother tried to help him to do right, but it seemed to be of no use. Shortly after he was 12 years old, he came home from school one day and said, "Mutsing, I want to go to Jiangxi. I will leave school. No one likes me. No one plays with me. I do not like school, and I will not go any more. I shall be a merchant and make money." His mother thought that he was too young to know what he wanted, and so paid little attention to him. But he insisted, and finally she said, "Go ask your father." His father was surprised and asked, "You wish to make money? How can you make money without money? Jiangxi is a long way off, and will cost you much to go there. Then you will need more to be a merchant." Gonghua said, "Give me enough to reach Jiangxi, and I will go." He insisted until his father beat him and said, "Now go back to school. I will hear no more of this." Gonghua was keen and determined. He borrowed money quietly, a little here and a little there, and then ran away to Jiangxi. For many days his mother tried to find him. She did not think that he would go far by himself. Finally she learned that he had gone to Jiangxi and gave up searching for him. 9 years had gone by when a man from Jiangxi told of seeing Gonghua there. His parents wrote to him, but no answer came. 13 years passed by, and they thought, "We shall never see his face again." One day Gonghua, who still lived in Jiangxi, said to a friend, "I must go home now, if I can get money enough. I have learned some life lessons, and now I am going." His friend said, "We have good times in Jiangxi. Why do you leave?" "It is not the place where I ought to be," answered Gonghua. "I have tried many things here, and in all the 13 years I have not had success. No one will have me as a bookkeeper. I tried to be a merchandise agent, and in 2 months I was discharged. I then worked in a bank for 40 days when they paid my salary and told me to go. Tomorrow I need money to pay my rent, 3 months due, but I have no money. I order clothes and they say, 'No money, no clothes.' I ask friends to lend me some, and they do not even answer me. I see now that I have been very foolish. I've been here 13 years, and I try to have a good time. I drink, I smoke, I dance, I go to theaters and halls every night, every night. I spend all of my money when I have work. Now I have no work. All my friends have left me. They will not trust me for a piece of silver. I have been very bad. I was a bad boy at home. My mother was good and gave me many lessons which I would not learn. Because my mother was so good, I have no excuse for my miserable condition now. I must go home and show her I am sorry at last. I know now that in all the world there is no friend like a mother. I will write to her tomorrow and say in my letter, 'Mutsing, I am going to leave opium, theater, and dance, all bad things.' I will ask her to send me money to come home, and then I will take my father's place on the farm. I will take the oxen and plow the rice fields, plant the corn, and tell my father to rest. I will help my mother so she does not need to cook nor do any other work. There is no one like father and mother, and no place but my home for me now." Gonghua wrote the letter and sent it by a friend, telling him to say good words for him, for he felt that he deserved nothing after causing his parents so much sorrow. 13 long years, and at last a letter from our dear son," cried Gonghua's mother. His parents were filled with joy and asked the bearer of the good news all about him. How long would it take for the letter and the money they would send to reach him? Would he come at once? His mother wrote, "My son, Gonghua, come to our home. We feel that you will do what you say in your letter. The house, the land, and all we have is yours, and we will rejoice to have you come and care for them. The time will seem long until you are here." Gonghua went to his parents as soon as the letter and the money came to him, and he was a good man from that time, and served his parents, and made their old age glad. He did everything he had said he would. He took the oxen and plowed the rice fields, he planted the corn, and he helped his mother in the house. And all were happy. The end. Wow, so that first story, I liked how the mountain was like, "Look at me, I'm so tall, I'm so strong, I'm so wonderful." but how come nobody likes me? And the other mountain's like, well, I'm not so high up. I've got grass, I've got birds, I've got fruit. So people like to hang out with me because I'm a lot more gentle. I thought that was just beautiful. And then the second story, I actually see a little bit of crossover in my life. Ganghwa is gone for 13 years. I've been gone from America for 14 years at this point. It'll be 15 by the time I come back. So, next year I'm coming home. Love you, Mom and Dad. And, that'll be interesting coming back home and being like Ganghwa. Although, I don't think I was as bad as Ganghwa. I didn't spend all my money on movies and drink and drugs and all like that. The podcast shoutout this week is actually to a book, not a podcast. Lurkers at the Threshold is a wonderful book of German folklore translated by Jürgen Hubert. He releases a lot of stories as public domain, but in his book, he provides a lot of detail and references that really make some of the stories come to life. I especially love the stories of miners walking into secret passages in the mountains only to come upon a meeting of the dead souls and to be told to get out. Ooh, this is not a place for you. There's some really awesome stuff in there for folks who like to write spooky tales, who love the spooky tales. He really takes it past the Grimm brothers. Like, everybody's heard of the Grimm brothers. Jürgen finds all of these really cool old tales, translates them from German, and makes them excellent. So, if you like his stories as much as I do, go and find him on Twitter at Franconian Exile. That's FranConianExile on Twitter, and grab a copy of his book, Lurkers at the Threshold. This is not a paid endorsement. There's no money there or anything like that. I'm just a really big fan of his work. And the listener shout-out is to Nova Scotia, Canada. One of my favorite turntablists is from Halifax, Scratch Bastard. I came across one of his albums while I was going through a physical record shop, like back when there was lots of record shops. I went to one in Toronto and I asked for Canadian hip-hop, and somebody pointed me right over to Scratch Bastard. Really good album. While I don't have a huge desire to tour the area, I am fascinated by the story of the Halifax Explosion, which took place in 1917 and destroyed a large part of the harbor, not to mention around 2,000 dead and 9,000 injured. It was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions ever, and it's an interesting piece of history that not enough folks know about. So go check out the Canadian History Podcast for that. And so to my Nova Scotian listeners I say, thank you and good night.